Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. This week I have a special guest where he is here with us. I can't wait for him to share with you more about who he is, what he does, and what he's all about. So with that said, I just go ahead and take a second to say hello to everyone.
Hi everyone, Rohit Bassi here. Nice to meet you all.
Great. Welcome to the Tony Shap Show. So I kind of do a rapid fire. I can just get right to the point and right through it, as you all know. So as our listeners, let's just kick it off right away. So as our listeners are tuning in right now, if they're listening to it on their phone or driving or watching this on YouTube, let's just kick it off with the one word open. So if you could kick us off with that one word to describe how you're feeling in this moment, that would be great.
Excited.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's go right into business. So tell us about your business. So how you got started, your story, your why, and from there, take us to the journey of where you are now and how it's evolved.
Of course, we'll keep it simple. I grew up in India and then moved to New Zealand when I was a kid. Did my engineering school in New Zealand. Actually taught engineering and practiced as an engineer before moving to US about 16 years ago for business school out east at Wharton. Then joined McKinsey. Felt like that was a better training ground for learning how to really do business. And so from there on in, went on to become an operator, joined a landscape company, had no background in landscaping, but it was more about learning how to run a business rather than the specific industry. That said, loved the industry. It was a private equity backed business, and that's where I wanted to be, a PE backed business, mostly because of the speed to action in that sort of space. Moved on from there to do a few startups, and then actually met my current partner in crime, my boss, who is a managing partner at Corridor Capital, at a school event, to be honest, a Penn event in LA. And then that's where I loved the story about the firm, and it made a lot of sense from what I had done and what I wanted to do going forward. And it just made a perfect match for me to join the firm. And that's where I am today as managing director. I head up all our operations and really oversee and help with our portfolio growth work. And so that's my story in a nutshell. Happy to go into more detail if useful or relevant.
Wonderful. At a high level, what's your typical day look like at a high level in terms of when it comes to moving the needle to things that are important to you? What does your day typically look like at just a quick high level?
Yeah, so there is no one typical day. I wish there was one, so that would give me a lot of consistency. But my day usually starts with a few calls. The idea being with portfolio companies, either they're scheduled. So I would say that 50% of my day is scheduled and 50 is unscheduled. So when there is a blank on my calendar, I don't sit back and relax. I know something. I know I'm going to get an inbound. So I leave a big chunk of my calendar for the CEOs and other executives at my portfolios to be able to reach out to me. And if I haven't spoken with somebody in over a week, then I'll reach out to them even just to say hi. Because even through that conversation, you learn a lot about what's happening in the business, what's top of mind for our GMs. And really, having been in their shoes in the past, I know that it can be a lonely spot. So if nothing else, just so that they know there's somebody out there in their network who actually cares and they can reach out to, is a big deal. And so it's a combination of structured calls with companies as well as some open-ended work. And then if I am lucky, I'll get a workout in. And maybe if I'm even more lucky, I'll probably maybe even read a book. But now we're talking about very low probability to get through that point in a day. So that's usually my day. And that sort of varies depending on the week, but for the most part, that's reasonably consistent.
Wonderful. I know you were super busy last week when we were exchanging some conversation. So I know this week you're still busy this week, but I'm glad we get some time in together here on this podcast. So would you say, do you guys classify yourself as hands-on or hands-off type of an investment firm?
I would like to use the word active as opposed to hands-on, because hands-on has a lot of implications, and a lot of our listeners, can relate to it, that there is a balance between looking for thought partnership, but then being managed. And so I actually never enjoyed being managed, and that's just my personality. And I think that I always believe in more autonomy and building GMs that are autonomous, because then there is a cascading effect. That's not to say that there is need for active management and heavy engagement model on certain occasions, but I fundamentally believe that, you know, as any leader, you've got to allow your team to grow, breathe, and you're just the coach, right? And the coach is, and there's a time to be a player, and then you step away, and then, you know, now you're a coach helping other players be better at the game. And I just always remind myself to make sure that I don't mistake myself for the player. I am in a coaching role, but if a player says, "Hey, jump in on the pitch and give us a hand," absolutely, I'd love to do that. But I'd much rather that be a sourced sort of request rather than me pushing for it. And of course, there's some nudges that you give along the way when things are not moving in the right direction, or you feel like people could be thinking slightly differently. Not to say they're thinking wrong, but my view is always that, hey, look, we've all got experiences, a ton of experiences. Let's bring them all together, and let's be very clear on what we're solving for. And once you know what you're solving for, then it becomes a lot easier to say, hey, is this a place where I can provide some constructive partnership? Is this a place where I need to bring someone else in to help? Or is it a place where I just need to do the work? You know, this is not thinking time. So it's a combination, but I would say more active, because dinner itself is an active way of engaging rather than the inactive or passive way where you kind of give directions and hope for the best and then you're disappointed. Well, that didn't really help anybody. So I think both me and my firm, we choose more of an active participation role, and we enjoy it. The management enjoys it, and I think it makes us a better partner, as well as it's fun. You know, again, I go back to the starting word of excited. Part of the reason I'm excited is because I actually want to have fun throughout my day. And when you're solving problems, albeit we're not solving complex problems all the time, that's okay. Just have fun along the way. So hopefully that made sense.
Absolutely. You spoke like a true leader. And I love what you said about your coaching. So that's huge, because a lot of leaders need coaches. You know, all leaders have coaches. I mean, just look at Brady last weekend. I'm not saying, where everyone stands on where he is and stuff, but everyone's got a coach, even though, anyways, enough about that. So really cool. So share with us a recent win that you have had in business context that you're proud of to speak to, and also what you learned from it, so our listeners could also have some good takeaway on that as well.
That's a really good question. One of the recent wins that, for me, a win is when I see a leader in an organization not just take what I've shared, but really make it their own. And what I mean by that is I am by no means, in fact, I know for a fact I don't have all the tools. That's one thing I absolutely know, that I don't have all the answers, and I shouldn't, because that keeps me excited about looking for answers, learning myself and growing myself. And I think for me, the big thing as a coach is I grow when my, I guess in this case, what I call it, students or GMs, whatever, how you want to phrase it, mentees, they themselves grow. And so an example of that would be, we recently, last year, we had a new CEO join one of our portfolio companies, and he's got a lot on his plate. It's a growing business, but it could be doing even better. And he's got a lot on his plate. And when we first started talking, and we gave him the opportunity to go build his own sort of list of things to do, he came back with 30 things, literally 30 things, and they all made sense. But those 30 things were things that, anywhere from very high impact to the business to just day-to-day stuff. And what my coaching to him has been all along was, hey, what are the 2 or 3 things if you only got to do 3 things, what would they be? And and what are we solving for? Those 2 questions always bring to the table. And fast forward a few months later, I think in a presentation that he was just sharing, and it was not more of a readout, it was actually a problem solving session, but he had prepared the notes. And I was really excited to see that he had actually highlighted 2 things. And while he still had the other 28, he had gone through the process of hyper prioritizing, because I think in today's world, it's not, prioritization is fine, but you almost need to be hyper prioritized, because you just don't have the time to do everything. And so he came back saying, these are the 2 things I would do. This is how I would do them. But on the other 28 things, here's how I think about time-based prioritization. And you're totally right. this is how it works for my organization, my people. This is what works for my CFO or my COO. And I think I was really proud of that moment because I felt like he had taken some of the coaching, made it into his own, and really to his own organization. It's not about me, it's about the company. And so he actually looked at his company, looked at the people, and said, this is what works for me and my company. I think that's great because now I know he's ready to take on the next step. And the next time we'll be talking about stuff, it won't be how to prioritize, it would actually be what's happening, right? How can I help you to make that a reality? So that was one of the key moments for me when somebody took some of the tools, and really, I think this will be a part of his toolkit for the rest of his life. And that is amazing. I can already see that for him and his company and anyone else that he works with in the future.
Absolutely, that's huge. That alone right there, and also listeners are going to have some solid takeaways from that as well. So, talk to me about your sweet spot. So, what is your cup of tea in terms of investments? I know that you guys talk about lower middle market and stuff like that, but if you could just share with us, give us some color into what you typically like to, you know, invest in, that'd be great.
Yeah, our sweet spot is B2B service businesses. So a lot of our team has had extensive experience in the service industry. We've all done other bits and pieces. We've all touched manufacturing. We've also done work outside of manufacturing. That is, some of us have actually worked in pharma, like I've spent time in pharma. But at the end of the day, our sweet spot is B2B service businesses. And really, most of our businesses are entrepreneur owned. So entrepreneurs who've done a phenomenal job taking their businesses from an idea concept to really something where now there's enough of a balance sheet that private equity can get involved, and they're still part of the journey going forward, but they recognize that, hey, look, we could bring in some, again, not just capital, but thought partnership. And so that to us is really exciting. And again, going back to the point that you made about Tom Brady, it's like, you've done the work. Now you've added more to your team or a different team, and you're like, oh wow, now we can learn some more and grow to the next stage, and and become unstoppable, right? Effectively. And so that's the space that we invest in, and those are the types of mindsets we invest with, and really it just helps us. Again, going back to the theme about being excited and having fun, it is fun for us because having been an entrepreneur in the past, to me, when I see the successful version of it at a very good scale, it just makes me like not only proud of the people that we work with, but also excited about the fact that, oh man, what else could we be doing? So hopefully that gave you some color on the types of businesses and also the more of the culture that we're looking for when we partner with companies.
Yes, that was beautiful. And also, I wanted to add another thing to the Bucks winning that day. I don't know if you heard when one of the owners, before he got the Lombardi Trophy, before he gave it to Brady and to the team and so forth. Did you hear the part what the owner said that right in the beginning?
I
He
did not.
said he said something that was really moving to me, and I think I think once I share it with you and the audience, it'll be quite moving as well. The owner said something that he said his father always said, if you want to get something done, hire someone that's been there before. And he was talking about Brady, so which was really moving for me and everyone that I've talked to this week. We all feel the same way, regardless of who's your team, who's not your team, or who you like to, if you like the players and stuff like that, which was quite remarkable. So it's so funny you could bring that in business context. So yeah,
In that context, one of the things that I see, both I've done this myself, because when you're running a company, you feel like you've got to get everything right, and then you've got to do everything. And how do you augment your team? To your point about bringing somebody who's been there before, is really key. But the thing that I see where a lot of business owners and CEOs, whatever team they're in, whether you're a functional leader or leader of the company, a leader of multiple companies, the concept of adding experience doesn't have to be in a traditional sense. What I mean by that is you can add experience to your team. You can hire somebody full time. You can also bring in consultants, but you can also look at advisory boards. And so the reason I say that is often when people hear like, oh yeah, I'd love to bring somebody who's a rock star or somebody who's done this before, or somebody who's seen where all the issues will lie. and they say, well, I can't afford them. And so the concept is that, there may be a mixed model here that I wanted to just bring up because, yeah, not everybody can bring on Tom Brady, and I can afford it. But to your point, there may be Tom Brady's out there that are willing to help guide you, but in a different capacity. And so just finding those individuals is the starting point. First of all, identifying that you need somebody is the key, right? That if you know that, then already you're ahead of the curve. Number two is you're very clear on what you're solving for, right? Because then you know why you need that person. Maybe I would always flip it, say, first you identify what you need to solve for, then find the person. And so once you found the person, then you figure out, okay, if I can't afford that person to be full-time on my team, what other ways I can engage them to really bring out the same value? And trust me, that alone is going to propel any business or any entity or any organization or any team way forward than those who actually are unable to quite cleanly identify what they're solving for and then be able to go find the resources to do it. So I just wanted to add that, just taking your idea, because it is a powerful one where, augmenting teams is really key, but not often. Usually people sort of don't go to it because they perceive a barrier to making that happen. And there are other ways to do it happen, to make this work.
That was beautiful. And for those of you listening, I highly recommend that you rewind for a minute or two just to catch what he said again. And if you're taking notes, make sure you got everything that he said, because those are some key gems that you gave us. And there's a lot of deep lessons that you shared with us. So thank you very much for that. This has been really great. Tell us how our listeners could get in contact with you if you have any questions about our conversation, or how you could help and what kind of investments you make. How could they connect with you?
The easiest thing would be my LinkedIn, would be the way to get at it. I've also written a few articles on Forbes as well as in Medium. So if somebody's reading those articles, they're about leadership, they're about how to think through different structures of problems. That's another way, but LinkedIn will be the primary way right now to start off. And then from there we can take it.
Excellent. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes for everyone. And as we're coming to an end here, if you could just wrap it up for us with a one-word close, that would be awesome.
Grateful.
I'm grateful as well. Thank you so much for coming on to the Tony Shap Show. It's been a pleasure to have you. And thanks for sharing these wonderful gems that you gave us. It's a lot of value-packed information that you gave us. So I can't wait to have you back on here again and to kind of catch up with you to see what you're up to. So thanks again.
Thanks, Tony. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation.